Hey, welcome to the Twin Cities Division.
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 I like mine better.
From the historic Lycetta Depot, welcome to the Twin Cities Division.
Welcome to the Twin Cities Division.
Good evening, Ken.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
I am well.
Good.
It's Friday/Wednesday night here again.
It is.
And we welcome everybody here. And hopefully everybody said hello. We're trying to see who's here so far. I see Humanity Junction Heath is here. Welcome. And I see Three Dubs has shown up, our former Wisconsin neighbor. And Randy's here. You guys say hello. Jason's here. We can see your name on the participant list. If you guys show up, then we can do things for you. We're going to go through some events, what's coming up, and then we have a neat little program for you, and we're going to bring the other Ken up And anything new on your end, Ken, that you want to add to or say first?
No, it's another beautiful day here. Winter keeps staying away for another day, and that's okay. I did note in the comments that this is broadcasting live on my personal Facebook page. So if you go to facebook.com Ken Ziska, it's there. I don't know how that happened, but it's whatever. We'll figure that out. We'll get that squared away sooner or later.
Yeah, I think Facebook is fighting with us for some odd reason to co-broadcast this StreamYard.
Yep.
So
right.
Oh,
Jim Brown is here, and he's the guy that's got all those phenomenal photos from the 70s that we would love to see.
Oh, is he the one? Okay, so he's the one with those. Okay.
Yeah, we were talking to him at the Skills Day, so that'll be pretty cool. Jay Bickford's here. Good. We just met him recently. So we have got a lot of folks. That's one of the really neat things about the division for this fall is we just had so many new people join. It's just terrific. We'll love it. It's great. So everybody have fun.
Everybody have fun. We have some great events. Let me add this to there. There we go. We can talk about starting Saturday. Ken, why don't you take that over?
Yes, this Saturday, the North Metro Model Railroad Club is having their flea market and a chance to visit their layout. And one of the reasons you want to go visit their layout is just to get an idea how awesome it would be to operate on that layout. Because on December 17th, from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, we are going to have an operations day there. And so if you're intimidated by the size of the layout, you'll get a job and you'll get a trained co-pilot, so you won't have to go out and get lost on your own, or you can take a smaller job. Last time I took a industrial job, which was really a lot of fun. So this Saturday, come to the flea market, and then go next door to the layout, check that out, then go a little farther next door to Rose's diner or cafe and try some of the great food, and then you'll know why you want to come back on the 17th. Get there early, get yourself a big lunch, and then operate with us all afternoon. Now, the operation goes 1 to 5. If you have to check out early, that's not a problem, but we'd appreciate you being there at 1 so you can get the safety briefing. It's kind of like fasten your seatbelt. In the case of oxygen deprivation, your mask will come down from the ceiling. All that standard stuff that Ken Borowski teaches us.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And then after that, that's December 2nd, December 17th. This weekend, also the Fremo HO Fremo group will be in the Burnsville Mall again. So that is a great opportunity to go out and see some good Fremo stuff. The Hennepin Overland group is open on the weekends. That's terrific. So you want to see that. Then December 9th, the following Saturday. Let's see. Maybe you have that in a different place. Well, I'll just I'll just talk about this one. The Greater Upper Midwest Train Show, which is commonly called the Century College Train Show, is February 3rd. That's another opportunity to buy and sell and get a little churning in your blue tubs, so you get a little new blood in there every now and again. So January 27th, the Tri-State Rail Sale, that's down in La Crosse. And I've not been to that, but boy, I've heard a lot of great stuff about that one. So as things are coming up, if we've got folks that are down there, give us a little more information about that. We'd appreciate that. January 13th, the Newport Train Club is having their show at Woodbury, and they're typically have their layout open afterwards. So again, that's a terrific way to spend a day. Go get some neat new things at the flea market, and then go afterwards and see their great layout. There we go. The Fremo N scale. They were open last weekend, and we're looking for more opportunities for them to be open. They had some visitors that came out to see them, and so we're looking forward to doing that again. I was out of town, but to go out there and operate would be a lot of fun. In fact, we have talked about doing a session that is how to do timetable and train order out there on that layout. And you can, as you could see from the picture, and if you go out there and visit, it'd be an excellent place to do that. The Fremo HO scale is at the Burnsville Mall now and through Christmas, and that's certainly worth going to see. Bring your family; it's a lot of fun. Make sure you do that. And then the hobby shop that Jason's talking about is right across the hallway from them, and I really don't know a lot about them. So Jason, if you know or somebody else knows a lot more about those guys, we would appreciate having him connect with us so that we can feature him next week on the show. We want to feature good stuff that's happening in the cities. Madison Train Show, that's always a lot of fun, and that's in February. So plan on that now. It's just a short little trip down there and back. A number of us are planning on carpooling down there, so it'll be a lot of fun. Discount tickets are available now, but of course they'll be available right up until the show. So look for that one. So here's our December 9th open house, and that's at the Devani's Pizza in Eden Prairie. Prizes and gift certificates are going to be given away to everybody in attendance. A lot of fun. Uh, the food is great. If you've been to a Devani's before, you know that. We're going to do a collection for Toys for Tots. So if you choose to donate, we request you donate a new unwrapped toy that would be suitable for us to get to the donation center so that that can be wrapped up and delivered. So RSVP to info@tcdnmra.org, and that's where you also RSVP for the operations session on the 17th. And okay, is there another one or no? Okay, I just want to give you another alert. On January 1st, we're going to open up the Ops Retreat sign up, and we will have a list of layouts that are open. You won't see all of them because we're going to add more as we need to. But nothing would be more delightful than to have 40 operator signups so that we have to use all the layouts where people have volunteered to work with us. If you've talked to anybody that's been to these in the last couple of years, couple of sessions, you'll know that they're a lot of fun. The layouts are fun to operate on, and it's nice to meet new people from the division and learn more about operations. And then there we go back. The 11th and the 8th, 11th of January and the 8th of February, we're going to be meeting via Zoom. And Randy is looking for some video presentations. And if you have an idea of a video presentation, again, use the info@tcdnmra.org, and I'll get that information to Randy so that he can get in contact with you. Lots of things that we'd love to see. Whatever it is you're working on, that'll be a lot of fun for us to see with you. April will be the layout tours, and there'll be more about that later. I can't skip the March 16th annual modelers meet. If you've been to one of those, this has got to be our 6th annual. They're getting better all the time. The history of the modelers meet is probably 10 or 15 years ago. Greg Smith put one of these on, and he just didn't want to continue it. So I talked to him, and he helped me get ours started, and I appreciate that support. And so we've been going on since then, and this is probably our 6th annual. And every year they get a little better. There'll be 8 great clinics. There'll be 24 to 26 tables full of models to come look at. There'll be some hands-on things to do. Just a great way to spend a Friday night, mostly social and setup. Saturday will be tours and displays. 16th through the 20th is the Thousand Lakes Region Convention in Eau Claire, and that's coming together real well. I'm looking to, with our December newsletter that we put, I'm looking to give you some ideas of the clinics that we're going to have in both March and May. We've also talked about a project that we're going to start at the Modelers Meet, and we'll give you the supplies. You can start it, and then the idea is then you can then take it home, finish it, customize it, and bring it back to the Thousand Lakes Region Convention for a really chance to win a really swell prize. It's going to be something better than a big hug from Dan Dosa. It will be, promise. August is the NMRA National in Long Beach, California. You'll continue to hear more and more about that. If you get a chance, go out to a NMRA National. They're a lot of fun. You'll meet a lot of great people. So, again, the Modelers Retreat. There you see a happy modeler displaying his items. Again, great. If you don't have Joe Binish's contact right there, just get the information to info@tcdnmra.com or .org, whatever I said it was, and I'll make sure that I get it to him. Boy, that's pretty dumb. I better go find my list here. .org. I send this out to everybody, and now I can't remember what it is. Okay, that's the highlights. Do something sensible before I really screw this up. There's that convention we're talking about. $85 a night for TLR guests. I mean, you can hardly get a room at the Notel Motel for that cost. So speeder trips, that'll be an extra cost item. Train ride behind live steam, museums, clinics, layout room, celebration room, and the lucky ticket raffle, all for you. And there you go. You can take it over, Tom.
All right, and make sure you patronize our local hobby shop. Scale Model Supply supports the NMRA. Hub Hobby, supplying some gift certificates for our holiday gathering meeting. And also, if you can, Scenic Express made a really nice donation to our scenery clinic at the Modeler Skills Day. They don't normally donate to groups, but since there's a bunch of us in the Twin Cities and in the TCD that have made considerable purchases, as you can see all the layouts, that they're very kind to us, and they gave us ample supplies for this Modeler Skills Day and probably a few in the future. So if you order anything from them, tell them, hey, thanks from the TCD, and I think we'll go from there. And we don't have a rail fan or an interview with some scratch building genius tonight, but we do have a interactive program for all of you in chat. And what we call this is, we learned this from the famous Bob Rivard and of course William Sampson, and Ken calls it the
Modeler's Eye.
Modeler's Eye. And what we're going to do is we're going to show photos, and we want your impression of these photos. And I'm going to bring on one of the real experts of photos here, Mr. Ken Borowski. So I'm in the middle of the Kens here. Ken is, of course, you saw him on our earlier video, N Scale Supreme. You can ask him N Scale questions, Heath. And he supplied some of the photos. I don't know if we could get to those there, but speeder rides. Well, one quick question. Speeder rides at the convention, they're all lined up.
Yep.
They're all lined up. CJ, come on out. We'll throw you on one. You can go down the old Milwaukee Road, and it's a free ride down the 10 miles, but the ride back is $100. So you choose what. No. It's something like that, but we don't know. No extortion involved. So welcome, Ken. How are you doing? What's on your workbench? You were telling me some things earlier.
Oh, pretty good. Yeah, I got a lot of projects going. Bunch of caboose projects, a couple other scratch built car projects, and well, just like anybody that's got a model railroad, there's always a project, and workbench is piling up. So every time I see it, it's like, you want to vomit because you're not getting nothing done. But it's good to have projects with wintertime slowly upon us here. So it's all good.
Yep. And Ken's building now for the celebration room. So if any of you want to have some models and photos and get them looked at for some of those merit awards to earn some APs, I'm looking at chat. There's a lot of AP participants in there, and people have earned certificates. Heath earned his electronics one, and I know Ken, you've got, both of you have 5 or 6, so you're that close away to having letters after your name. And then I can teach you the handshake. Then I can teach you the famous handshake. Then
There you go.
And I forgot. I put in chat that the Crossing Gate podcast is out this Friday. It's a wonderful episode called "What Would You Do If You Could Start Over?" It features our own Ken Borowski, Joe Binish, Mike Jordan, and myself. And if you're ever interested on what we would do starting over, tune on in. It's pretty good. We got a great sponsor. We got some great outtakes. But it's interesting what people would do if you gave them a blank slate and they still had all the skills and the money. What would you do? So we can do that. So we'll get into this. We'll get into this modeler's eye, and we want you in chat. And maybe Ken Zeska can do this. I'll add this to the stage. And this is the first slide. And Ken, so we're looking at a boxcar being washed.
Well, it's interesting how that came out, because that was the last slide. But I'm glad this is here, because what I would like people in the chat to do is explain to me what in the heck is happening. So obviously this looks like a wash rack where they would put passenger cars through, but what's going on in this rack? Why are they scrubbing this boxcar down like that? So I happen to know the answer, but I'm just wondering if anybody has something. So let's go on to the next one so that we can let people think about that. So one of the things that I'm just amazed at how those came out. Okay, so this is off of Greg Dahl's layout. And so as modeler's eye, what I'd like you to do is take a look at this photo and tell me what sort of things it tells you. Again, I think there's some really neat stories here. What it tells you about the building, the era, what it tells you about the railroad.
Yeah.
So,
What year do you think what years would this photo be appropriate in?
Yeah.
Somebody might, because that's what you're telling your story.
Yes.
Well,
Part of your story is the era.
I mean, by just looking at the car, that's going to give you a rough time frame. And looking at the sign Blockbuster, there hasn't been a video store around in a long time, so that'll kind of give you an idea for the era as well. So those are just a couple of hints, I guess, for
it's not, so everybody's getting, it's the height of VHS tapes, and you have to wonder, when that would be. So
Yeah.
Greg did a good job on some of the. We'll see some other photos of his layout here. I think here we go.
Right. And so here again is a billboard that he's got on top of his buildings, and it tells you coming soon, Back to the Future. So when did Back to the Future get introduced to the world? I'm guessing I guess I know that. It's the mid 80s. So if you remember back to the first shot, it was a repair shop, and you had all these classic repair shops where you could go into it. Well, by the 80s, everything was made disposable, so you didn't need repair shops anymore, and so it was being replaced by your Blockbuster Video. And here again, same thing. You're in a little more challenging part of town, but big fancy billboard, and it's advertising the latest and greatest new movie. And I think it says here he's the only kid ever to get in trouble before he was born. So, oh, and the telephone booth. Thank you, Randy. That's a great point. So these are the kind of details that we'd like you to take a look at, and also take a look at when you see prototype, because these are the kind of things that you can use to set eras on your layout, or to just give people something a little bit special to catch their eye and see what they see. The era of a district too. Yes, older brick buildings, wrong side of the tracks. Graham, really good point. Really good point.
Yeah.
So, and CJ knows that it was in 1983 that the movie came out. CJ, are you old enough to know that? So here's another shot, and this is from Steve Doyle. And the thing I wanted to point out to you that Steve's done on this, and again, it's a different era. This was going back probably another 50, 60 years prior to this. But look at all the suspension piping and devices that they have on the signs. The signs, many of them are lit, and but again, you'll see things on there that really tell the tale of when they were around. The log cabin sign, it's got a beautiful support holding it up. It's anchored to the building like they were back then, and the sign, you can clearly see that the sign is seen as better days, as it's starting to see some rust. Look also at the awnings. They're sagging a little bit, so they're not new and crisp. But when was the last time you saw an awning on a store like that? They just aren't there. And as Don says, that looks like his grandmother's dress.
Yes. And one thing I noticed, the dress sets the tone. The awnings are actual cloth. I know a lot of models come with plastic and rigid awnings. I've added cloth awnings. It's tough to do. He did this very well. But one of the things I noticed is there's really no tropes in here, right? There's no gags. There's no, like, the cop not chasing somebody or a cat in a tree or doing this. That looks like a street we've all been down or seen in a movie. Ken, Mr. Borowski, what do you see in that photo?
Well, obviously the cars too give you the era, and just the colors too. Back in that era, everything was more monotone and not bright and neon-y like you'd see, 80-ish era. So that's another telltale sign as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's modeling that era and doing it well. So
there's two shots coming up on this. This is one that William Sampson gave us, and this is a shot that he saw, came off the internet, railroadpictures.net, and he saw this SDL 39 with all these lights going on, the marker lights, the walkway lights, the ditch lights, and that inspired him. And he said he had to have that on his model. And so here's the model that he produced. And as you can see, he's got the walkway lights in front, the class lights. He's got the headlamp, the marker beacon, the lights over the trucks. What did he say? He had 25 different lighting features on these engines.
But something close to that, yes. Cab lighting, all
Absolutely.
the steps.
I mean, if I can get above 12 speed steps, I'm lucky. But he's got I didn't think to ask him this, but how do you have them all on one CV, or how do you control? How many different lighting features can you control?
I don't know. I try and put mine just on or off. Maybe the my rotary beacons might be separate, but I put them on or off. And he says, Randy thinks they're all individually controlled, which sounds like something William would do. I'm lucky to program the right number.
I think he did a video of that install on his YouTube channel where you can probably go and actually find that information out and see how he
Yeah.
did it. Because I think
Yeah,
I
the
remember
suitable
seeing that
looking.
one a while back. But yeah, it's a beautiful looking model.
But yeah, that was all inspired by this. So that's how you can look at a prototype photo. And you said, like, even though it's night, but you're like, wow, I'd love my engine to have all those lights. And you can now. LEDs, mini LEDs, fiber optics. Yep, you're muted, Mr. Zeska.
You see things in prototype and they inspire you to do modeling. So this is a shot that I got that Doug Hodgson sent me sometime back. And we all know he's an exceptional modeler, but look at the junk. And again, you know, you can get the pile of junk that's been cast for you, and it kind of looks like a pile of oatmeal, but this is clearly quality junk, and right down to the support that he's got on the pipe, and you know, the tree. You know, I blew this shot up just to look at it. The barrels are empty, and the junk is almost looks like hand painted and hand placed. So so that's pretty cool. Now Don says that stucco building on the right screams California. That's kind of interesting. Did they do a lot? They did a lot of stucco. Because I've seen some stucco here in the Twin Cities, but
Well,
that really does.
Well, that tree there on the left, I'm assuming that that's a tree on the very far left-hand side.
Yep.
Just with the little ribs on it, almost looks like a palm tree. So that would give you a, you know, western part of the country.
Exactly. Now, see,
Location as well.
Here's what happened. Tom did something to himself and blew himself up. So we're going to have to song and dance for that. Jay, yes, a very realistic pile of junk. And one of the reasons why I like to go through these pictures is because it shows me the kind of things that you can add, or I can add to my layout. And folks, I suggest that these are the kind of things you can set up as 15-minute projects. When you're busy doing a lot of other things, and you don't want to spend time, you don't want to start a big new project, you can have a little box full of little junk pieces that you can paint up, and then just keep placing them around in there until the scene is made. And then if you want to spray over it with some matte medium or something to hold it, you want to glue these things in place, whatever you need to do. But it's a scene that you can do and redo over and over again. I think that if you were going to start doing the lighting on that SDL 39, that would be a project you do all at once. But I can tell you, if Steve Doyle particularly, and I believe Greg also, will tell you that those signs are things that they can do one at a time as the spirit moves them. They might be on the internet and they'll see an old sign that makes sense to them for their era, and they create it. We're looking for the modelers meet to have Greg and Steve come in and show us how to make signs like that. So if that's something you're interested in, just again, make sure we know about that. Let Randy know that, or Joe Binish, and then we'll try to put that in, because we do want to make sure that we put projects in there that you guys are going to want to see. But this again would be a beautiful project for you to set up, have a little scrap box that you keep throwing junk in, and then from time to time you paint them up and put them in and keep moving them around until you get the scene you like. So
I like how he's got
what's
the
next?
barbed wire fence on there as well too.
Yeah. Okay. There's another thing. We need a clinic on how to do barbed wire fencing.
And he's got a different type of fence just to the left of it, in between the
Oh,
tracks
yeah.
and the, which
Yeah.
which would tell you that it's a different company or a different piece of property, because the two
Sure.
different owners have different types of fences.
Yeah. That
So
little
there's a lot of-
cactus. I like
Yeah,
the
lots of
cactus,
little
but I don't think it
details
will
in
look
there
good
when
on
you
my.
start looking. Yep.
The cactus wouldn't look good on my Sierra, my oak savanna.
Well, that's one thing about scenery. It's all in layers. I mean, you don't have to do it all at once. Like you said,
Yes.
you just stash away little pieces and parts, and then when you get stuff, you just add them here and there. And another couple months down the road, you might add some more to this scene. You know, it just keeps building on top of itself.
Exactly. So here's let's start talking about oak savanna. So on my layout, I tore out a big canyon scene, and I decided I want to put in an oak savanna. So I went out and got some pictures from the Minnesota DNR of what the prairie and the oak savanna looks like up where the Northern Pacific went through Minnesota and central Minnesota, you know, past Sauk Center and up towards Lake Wobegon. And I really liked the fact that you can see the different colors in here. You can see shadowing, and the trees are not bunched together. And when you look at like Ken's doing the Appalachians, those forests are dense. But here, the forests are more opened up. So that's what I wanted to show here. Is the next shot oh well. Okay, we'll come back.
If you
to
go
that.
back,
No,
if you go
well,
back to the
we'll
last
come
picture.
back. There's two more shots for the oak savanna. We'll get to them.
Because if you look at that picture too, just the coloring, if you look up near the top of the hillside, just to the right of that bunch of trees in the middle, you can see that there's a lot of brown to the tops of the grass. A lot of people
Exactly.
just put down grass and they think, okay, it's green and you're done. Well, grass has got all sorts of different colors and textures to it and different heights. If you look around the little swampy pond in the front too, you've got taller grass around that. You've got a couple little clumps of darker green just to the right of the shadows. There in the front of the picture. So there's a lot of little things you can do to a scene that that you don't really notice, but your eye sees it and it just makes it seem so much more realistic.
Right. And so when we show later on my scene, which is not complete yet because it'll never be complete, but I've tried to do that where I've put in different colors of grass, and it's real easy to do with static grass because you put down a base coat and you can put it in a couple different colors, and then you can just come back with your hairspray and get it damp again, and then shake on some different colors. And so you can actually make it look like the shadows that you see there. And that's a lot of fun because sometimes the shadows are going to be actually caused by the clouds above. And like somebody says that lower left hand seems to be a little pond. Sometimes as you get into the late into the summer and the fall, these little ponds are nothing more than little mud holes because most of the water has dried up. So, okay, let's look at the next one. Here we go. So I've got a couple of shots like this. This were taken in the 1960s on the Great Northern in Northeast Minneapolis. And what I use this for is to see all the different details. So you can see that they're switching. That tank car is being switched onto a siding. And I see at least three different grades of track here. Starting from the right, it looks like there's two main tracks because they're well ballasted. They look like they might be a little above the mud. Then the track that's right in front of us doesn't look nearly as nice, but yet it's still, you can still see an occasional tie. But as you go farther and farther to the left, the ties become more, they tend to disappear. And I think that's a way for us to tell on our railroads, tell the story of what tracks are the main tracks and what tracks are not. So, so that's what I was showing here. You can also see this is back in the era where they still have 39-foot tracks and they're bolted together. But you can see the detail of the frogs. So I thought that was kind of interesting. This just to the left of the wheel of the tank car where it's going over, it looks like those tracks are actually being treated as crossings because you don't have that's not a turnout. That looks to me like it's a crossing. So I had never seen anybody do that where they crossed a main line like that. And so I've incorporated that a couple places on my layout. So
Yeah, it is interesting that you're coming off the main line and you're actually going over a crossover, or not a crossover, but a crossing to get to wherever the industry is, or maybe they're going to an interchange track or something.
sure.
Who knows? But that is kind of a different looking piece of track like that, or something you don't see modeled a lot, where you go through a crossing.
You don't. And so where I've used that on mine is I needed to get into a siding. And if I would have come off the main line, the radius into the siding would have been too tight. So I made a balloon track that's my runaround track, and I come off of that into the siding. So now I've got enough curvature to get into that. Yeah. And Randy, your point about makes you wonder which track was there first. I have got pictures from Hole in the Wall taken like every 5 to 10 years, and they change tracks so incredibly often that that's always a tough thing to tell. So, but again, some neat things for you to see in here. Look at the siding that's up by that building. That looks to be what, 4 or 5 feet higher than the main line. So they had to push up high to get up to that. Again, a nice detail.
If you didn't know the year as well, too, you could look at those tank cars, because those kind of give you the era as well, because just
Right.
the style of those tank cars to the right, along with the delivery truck on the left.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. The large lettering on the tank car.
Yep. Good.
You know, it was a busy enough road to warrant electronic protection.
Yep.
So,
It's a lot of tracks crossing that road as well, too.
yeah.
Again, this is just northeast Minneapolis, a little north of the Minneapolis Junction. So, okay.
Okay, these are some photos that I helped John Hotvet take. We submitted to the NMRA calendar. And if you got your recent calendar, you saw that his name was on the submissions, but they didn't pick any. I don't know why. These are awesome. So this is John's layout. And look at this scene and tell me, what do you think, what year or era he's modeling? Because here we have the Coke machine, the phone booth, the round taxi cabs. We have a, Colorado Southern switcher, the Santa Fe, dress blue F units, super cheap box cars. Look at the bus. Everything sets the tone.
Yeah, just the paint job on the engines too is a big key there too. And like you said, the bus, that's another one.
Yeah, the bus up there, the Mayflower truck. You can see some of the other things on there. John does an incredible job of, when you walk into his layout, what era and where you are in the country. So yeah, you're in the 50s, somewhere in eastern Colorado. The roads aren't paved, which is a big thing. Well, I think we looked at some of those other photos that there's no paved roads. And what era was that Coke machine? Yeah, everybody says the vending machine looks correct for that era. In the track.
I'm not sure if he's modeling a specific location, but there's not a whole lot of yard areas like that where you have an overpass going through the yard too. So that could possibly tell you where that location is too, if you know that part of town.
Right. I don't think John has town names, but they're not prototype track work and things. So I believe this is what he calls Central City. This would be the probably a Denver-esque type city on his layout
Okay.
for Eastern Colorado. And he just tried to put things that he's seen, you know, the truss bridge for highway traffic over a rail yard.
Yeah, Barstow's got a bridge like that on the backside of the yard. I've been over. A few times, but-
Cheyenne has one. Think of all the bridges crossing over the Northtown NPBN, you know, the
Yeah.
river, things like that. Yeah, Graham's noticing the spikes, the beautiful hand-laid tracks.
Yep. So let's talk about figures in the scenes, because we talked about the Coke machine earlier. So this is the kind of thing that it's easy to add things afterwards. One of the conversations that I hear from time to time is, do you put figures in your scene or not? Because if you put figures in, it gives you that feeling that it's populated. But because the figures never move, do they get stale? Do they make the scenes seem stale? And I'm not going to take a side on that. I'm just saying that's one of the conversations.
Well, that could be said as well with vehicles and stuff too. If you just set them on your layout and they never move for 15 years,
Yep.
you know, that kind of the same thing, you know.
I do the 50-50 approach. As everyone knows, I love the stage photos. I got my layout at the where I can make fun photos and TikToks. So half of the people on my layout are pretty much, they're glued, but I always use that temporary glue. And the other half are not attached, but they're attached to clear bases. And that even if I take a photo, I can Photoshop them out. So I do like to move the vehicles and the people around between sessions. And as anybody who's ever visited the Split Rock, they know I like to change signs. So especially at Moe's place.
Moe's is a popular.
Moe's is
place.
popular. And another thing too is we're composing this scene, and you look at this. This is actually probably at least 12, if not 20 photos that I took. That I lined up the camera for John and stacked them together. And then we photoshopped in the sky. And what I noticed, I looked at the crossbucks. So the one by the taxi cab over there. And I thought, wow, you know, I'm so horrible photographer. I burned it out. You can't see railroad. You can't do this. But in that era, the backside of the sign didn't say railroad crossing. So what I thought was a blur from the camera or my lighting was not. I looked at the other still photos I took, and it's blank on the backside like that.
Yeah, that's true, because you're actually looking at the back of that sign in this
Yeah.
picture. So
Yeah, and I told John, I said, I want to retake that because I really, burned that. And he goes, no. And then I looked at the still photos and I thought, oh, okay. So that sets an era too.
I do like the level of detail he's got.
Yeah.
Just enough live foliage there to make it look alive.
Yeah. It's where it should be too, where it's unkempt. It's not between the rails and things. So here's another one on John's layout. Let me know what you guys take a look at here.
I see the Greyhound bus. I don't see a whole lot of those.
Yeah, well, especially knowing John and the fact that he owns one of those.
Yeah.
John is a bus guy as much as he is a train guy. So he has accurate buses for that era. I've even asked him, what's the correct bus I want for my 1969 Split Rock. And he told me a version like the one you see there, but it has a yellow stripe. He says in 68 to 70, whatever, they added this yellow stripe. So I've been looking for one of those. Don noticed the rock already there. But you look at the vegetation, there's not static grass. It's kind of an arid area, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the railroad bridge is kind of level, but the highway bridge isn't. Yeah, over and under. So there's a lot to take your eyes away from the things he doesn't want you to look at too, right?
And it gives the scene good depth.
Really good depth. I think that Rock Island train is static. I would believe that's static. And the pie trucks and everything. There's not too much weathering. You know, look at the clean FTs up there.
Yeah, well,
And
back in
what-
that era, all that stuff would have been relatively new, so it wouldn't be as weathered as.
Yeah, probably a new concrete bridge. And this is one I added. So here we are. Anyone name the location of this one? Randy
the
can
tr-
see this. Randy's got a favorite shirt here.
Well, the trees are the same height, so that's got to be like northern Minnesota, northern Michigan, or Wisconsin somewhere, where
Yeah.
it was all cut down back in the day, and it's all growing back at the same rate.
Yes, that's a good one there too. Yeah. And yeah, so this is northern Minnesota, middle of nowhere. And this is a good thing because I like to do modeling a crossing. I would love to do a clinic called The Anatomy of a Crossing. Joe Binish is after me. But even this, so look at this one. It even has still a dirt road, right? But even the dirt road has the railroad crossbucks. But even if there's a chain, if you look closely, you'll see a chain across the road. So it's probably leading to something private or a mine or gravel pit.
Oh yeah, I can see the chain across there now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just going like Randy says, the Jack Pine Swamp. It's this is my layout. It's pine trees and birch trees. It's not, you know. And Dan's mouth shadows like this picture, huh? I see the train's casting a shadow and some from the left. He has the train lighted really well in this photo.
You know, Dan, that's kind of interesting because I think it would be challenged to be able to specifically create shadows like that. I wonder how you do that.
Yeah. And notice that if this was a model, you know, everybody wants a clear photo. In the bottom right, you see the top of some type of tree. And that may be some of the things I've taken when I'm taking pictures of my layout, is to bring some vegetation right up to the lens, as if you're the rail fan looking through towards this train.
Well, I think that's something a lot of modelers don't do is they put the tracks of their layout right up to the edge instead of leaving a few inches in front for that dead space or that negative space where you can have some scenery in front of the trains as well, like you said. So when you do take pictures, you've got that edge in front, so you're not just getting a chunk of the fascia in every one of your pictures.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good thing to add into your modeling. I think a lot of people model that track right on. It's like model in some scenery. And so even if you look at the diesels, there's two things I notice. Is you have three types of diesels in this photo in two paint schemes. So two paint schemes means that the railroad has been evolving. And you also see two different colors of the taconite cars, which means they've had to buy more to replace some, or their business got better. There's two other things to notice about an ore hauling railroad. I'll point out one, see if anyone notices the other one. If you're familiar with reserve, you'll get it, but they're running left-handed.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Either that or it's a part of the Chicago Northwestern. But
Yeah, the Chicago Northwestern and the Duluth, Mesabi, and Iron Range. And I don't know who else ran left-handed. But
So there was a comment about the ballast. Does ballast on these iron ore railroads, does it usually become as much taconite as ballast?
yes, on the Mesabi and Erie. But do you see that here?
no, I don't see a whole lot of ore in the tracks here, so that would mean this is prior to probably the pellet era.
Nope. this is Randy. The reserve mining is the only one in the northern states that they haul the crushed rock. They don't
'cause that
haul
would-
pellets
Yeah,
because
that would
their
make
pellet
sense,
plant.
'cause-
Yeah. That's why you don't see it. Their railroad's not orange. Like the Split Rock and the Masabi.
Oh, yeah. Plus the pellets are always coming off the tops of the cars on the
Tops of
Mesabi,
the
too.
cars and turning
Yeah.
everything purple. Yeah, they had the pelletizers, Randy calls it, on the lake, which got them in a lot of trouble back in the 70s. They decided to just haul the rock down to the lake and use Lake Superior as their discharge. But the taconite rock has a huge abundance of asbestos in it. And that was polluting the lake, and all the cities down Lake Duluth, Superior, and everything were just getting horrible water. So they went to U.S. Supreme Court or whatever, and had to haul. Now they haul their discharge away. But yeah, this is you model reserve or something like this with these low-sided gons, and there's no pellets. That's what he's saying. The dirt road looks like ballast. I agree, Paul. That might be a railroad service road.
So are those ore cars, or are those just regular like coal cars?
They're
coal
like 30, like the Pennsylvania Union Pacific. I think they're like 39-foot gondolas. I still call them ore cars. I mean, they're split rock like, because you look at them and they've got just 5 numbers on the side. And so yeah, that's they're little tiny gondolas because the rock's so heavy. But they're rotary dump.
Okay.
And yeah, that road. So you can make your road out of ballast. Use your current ballast, and then you see dirt on the other side. But you look at the railroad signs and the markers, and I don't see whistle posts off in the side. But then again, they're not. I'm facing the wrong way for that.
Well, there is a sign there right by the crossing for the train crew, the little square one there. So I'm not sure what that one
I think
would be.
that might be an early one for like the ditcher, if they're going by with a Jordan spreader or a ditcher to raise the blade or to put it back down.
That could be.
Something like that. And then Dave says, yeah, the road to the upper right, they cut through the woods there. This sand and gravel. So not much paved out in the middle of nowhere, but this is pretty much what I'm trying to model. So I looked at Erie and Reserve. And I have Elcos instead of these EMDs. You're looking at the high hood unit is an SD9. The chop nose unit is an SD18. And the 2 in the back are 2 of the only 6 SD28s to exist. Reserve Mining had 4 of them. They're basically a deturbocharged SD35. And they made 6 of them in the entire world, and they own 4. And they're all still working up there today. Yeah. Rock looks like granite. It does. Real taconite is real gray, with little traces of iron ore in it. I think they have to mine like 5 tons of rock to get a ton of pellets. It's or worse. But yeah, you look at a scene like this, it's just a crossing, but like we pointed out, so many things, the coloration, you're back to vegetation, like Ken said. Other side of the crossing, you have all this dead vegetation. So it's start of fall. And you can tell, but on this side it's green, so you know which way the water's running. There might even be a pipe underneath those roads. And you can also see that the engines are putting out exhaust. So it's not all downhill to the Lake Superior from Babbitt. Their mine is in Babbitt, Minnesota. So they're giving a pretty good tug to get over, the Continental Divide there. taconite tail. It might be. The ballast looks a little darker, but it's why I think Reserve got their ballast from somewhere else, because I don't think they wanted to crush the taconite pellets to the sizes that you needed. I think when they built this road, they got their ballast from one of the class ones, Burlington Northern or Great Northern back then in 55. I think this road was built in 55 or 57. All right. That's it. That's all we got here.
Well,
Just want to go back and look at some.
did you? I sent you about a dozen. Did you only?
Right. Well, the StreamYard only takes so many megabits. So I made like this whole like 30 slides, and I try to load them, and
Okay.
I can only load so many. I can try it now, but we're already at an hour, so maybe we'll save the other ones for it. Because Ken sent me a dozen too from the clinch field that are awesome to look at.
So, so perhaps next time we'll take one small topic and have a half a dozen slides on that topic, and it could be scenery coloration. But part of what we're trying to encourage here when doing this is we'd like you to look at details and say, well, I'd like to know how to do that. And then we can start putting together some clinics, presentations on how to do things like that. And it might be a good opportunity to put together a video clinic that we can use in January or February. And yes, the answer to the boxcar wash, back, and I doubt they do it anymore, but back in the 60s, particularly, the railroads had to certify the cars were suitable for dry lading. So what they had to do from time to time is run them through a washer like this and see if they leaked. And so if you look at freight cars in the 60s and 70s, and you look at the roof, you'll find that the roof panels and the bracing it looks like it's been painted black. Well, it's not painted black. They go up there with a tar and they seal the ridges so that they can send out a boxcar that is watertight. So that's why the cars are going through there, because they have to be certified as watertight. And again, in the 60s, you would see they had boxcars that might say for hide loading only. And when a car got to that stage, it was the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the barrel, because they would send them to stockyards and only load them up with hides that were tainted with entrails and stuff like that. And you certainly wouldn't want to put food in it afterwards. So
I'm just looking at all those barrels next to that thing. That's a lot of barrels. What do you think's in those?
Well, you also notice back, if you look at the 60s, freight cars didn't look as scummy as they do now. They do put cleaner in there so that the box cars get cleaned. They may not be as pristine as they once were, but they come out clean, and the car crew can certify them as suitable for dry loading.
Yeah, that would be like Mike Jordan. That would be something to add to like your layout, Ken, in your era, is not only do they want a clean inside car, but you have to prove that it's sealable.
It is.
You're going to load boxes of cereal, foodstuffs, things like that.
The Sioux Line had a 5-ton truck, stake body truck, and on the back of it, they had a power washer. And so they would go in and power wash the inside of cars out and clean them out. And those were cars that were then suitable. They'd been checked out that they didn't leak from the outside. They're cleaned on the inside, and then they were suitable to go up to the paper industry in northern Wisconsin and haul paper product out. And do they still do that? I honestly don't know. My history of railroads ended a few years ago.
Yeah, I'd be close. I wish they'd just wash the engines.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen there's 2 wash racks in the Twin Cities, and I've never seen either of them used. So
Yep.
Well, I suppose back in the day too, they'd always run the passenger cars through there at some point. So
yeah, we figured wash that and scrub the domes and take
Yep.
some pride in that.
Yeah. Jay brings up a good point in that, again, I'm a Northern Pacific historian, and back in the mid 60s, the Northern Pacific had to write to the Railroad Commission and demand that the Eastern railroads send their cars back to them, because the Eastern railroads were so deep in deferred maintenance that their cars were falling apart. So when they would get a Northern Pacific car out there, they wouldn't let it go. And so, they could track them down, and they had to tell them to send them back. So,
Yeah. I'm sure, like Ken, you probably the Clinchfield, those little railroads that were really close knit, you had 10 members of the same family working there, had better equipment too, and they were taking care of the engines and things like that.
yeah, well, back in that era too, you'd get a lot of mix of power from different railroads too, because they were all owned by the same corporation. They were just run independently, but they'd swap a lot of things and exchange a lot of different stuff and have run through power and things. So that makes that era a little bit more interesting to model as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat things the farther you go back. And I know I've talked about this with my friends, and they think that that's going to fade out. Everybody wants the newer generation or younger people. Everybody's younger than me, and so wants to model what's modern. But that era is so interesting. It's like the people that do plastic models, the still World War II era, because there were so many different things and variations and technology changes that what Ken Zeska's modeling, that transition era, I suppose it's called, that's the moniker we've given it, 44 to 54 is just the most popular era still, just for the variety of equipment that you can have.
yeah. And so, Tom, I bumped myself up to the mid to late 60s just because I want to get some more colorful billboard lettering, and that started coming out late in the 50s. But the railroads were still taking care, at least the Midwest railroads were still taking care of themselves, the Sioux Lines and the NP and the GN. I suppose the Milwaukee Road probably ran, and the Rock Island probably ran out of the option of taking care of themselves earlier. But as you point out, every era has its interest, and that's what's fun.
Yeah.
Well, like all the cars back in that era too were all painted boxcar red. I mean, everybody had a red boxcar, and pretty basic, just stuck the name on the side. There wasn't much else to it, but that evolved obviously later on with more colorful stuff like your Great Northern Sky Blues and
Yeah. Oh
that
no,
stuff.
that's sky blue.
And,
But
yeah.
interestingly enough, everybody's boxcar red was a different shade.
Yeah, whatever they
Yeah,
had on here.
that's true,
But
too.
I like Ken, you brought up the billboard. Ken Ziska brought up billboards, and I'm sure that was a result of the railroads trying to sell their new streamliners. So that era is the late 50s and the 60s. Here's the Super Chiefs, the Hiawathas, the city trains. That's what that. And then when they kind of to go past, say, like Ken Borowski pointed, then everybody started the CB&Q. Let's have red boxcars, the Great Northern. Let's have orange boxcars. Let's have something to set aside.
Right.
And
Right.
I like all that. But yeah, I think this modeler's eye, like I said, if you had 12 slides of different grade crossings, from a dirt farm crossing all the way to 4-lane interstate, what based on what you're going to model, what do you see on there? And
Well,
what
even the
era?
way they actually make the grade crossing itself. Some of them are just tarred over. Some have the wood. Some have, the modern stuff. I mean, just that alone, just what they used to actually make the crossing.
Yeah, that was interesting here because the crossing on this reserve one is wood. They went to all the trouble of that. So to me, that shows they were moving some heavier trucks or vehicles over this crossing. You know, if they just wanted cars or something, you know, carryalls, they wouldn't have, you know, protected the rails that way.
Well, it's kind of interesting too when you see like that's a double track crossing. We can't really see what the other crossing looks like, but there's a crossing in the UP yard here in town in South St. Paul, where they just redid the crossing in the yard and they put two different types of grade crossings there. They're both brand new, right next to each other. The same roads crossing both tracks, but the way they did each track is different.
I might have seen that.
So that's kind of weird too, because like you'll look at somebody's layout and you'll see that they did it different on two tracks. Like, well, why'd you do that? Yeah, it's like, well, you know, why not? Because it happens. So
then you get out your pitcher, like Mike Jordan says, the ace of spades, and you slam it on the table.
But you know, like why would they do that? You know, if you're doing one wood, why would you do the other one concrete or whatever? It's just So
that's what they had.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things when you start looking, like you said, when you start looking at a scene, you start seeing all these little things that you just glance over the first time through.
And I think a lot of times too, you were oblivious to the railroads, billion-dollar companies, and back then million-dollar companies, how cheap they could be. You know, they had to pinch some pennies some way especially during regulation time, when they couldn't beat the other guy's price. You know,
it always amazes me too whenever they do work anywhere, like along a section of track. Who's ever doing the work, they don't take with them what they just did. They just throw it into the woods and sits there for years until somebody comes by later on and picks it up or whatever. It's just kind of funny how that works. Usually when there's a construction crew somewhere and they're doing work, when they're done, they clean the area up and they move on. Well, railroads seem to just throw it in the ditch and leave it there until nature covers it up.
Yeah. Well, I think now they have different crews. You know, the entire trains that just go out and pick up ties.
Yeah,
you know, it's their own job. Well, the tie gang will replace all the ties and throw them aside.
Yeah,
and a week or two later, the tie pickup guys will come in. You know.
So Dwight reminds us that the North Metro Show is Saturday, and so you should go restock your blue box, your blue tub in the morning. Go visit the layout in the afternoon, and then sign up for the North Metro Op session at info at nmratcd.org. Info at nmratcd.org. So sign up to operate. But another neat point that kind of came up here is if somebody in the audience has what they consider like a 4 or 5 photo sequence that would be really good for the modeler's eye, get a hold of us and we'll arrange to put it together. And we've got a lot of things. So we may have to just do a couple at a time so that we can make it just a little part of the show, or we'll end up going 6 hours. And we already know a group that goes 6 hours on a Tuesday night.
And that's a good idea too for our video. We're looking for videos for January, February. It doesn't have to be an action video. Put together some slides.
Absolutely.
And challenge us and say, hey, what do you see? Or even some trivia, or why are they washing a boxcar?
Yeah.
I want to add one thing too. I don't know if you guys covered this. I don't think you did, but if anybody's checked Twin Cities Division website recently, it's been updated. All the events on there are now current. So if you don't have Facebook, which a lot of the stuff is on Facebook, you can actually go to the website now and see what the upcoming events are. Everything on the event page on the Twin Cities Division website is current as of a couple days ago. So make sure you check that out and print it out and keep it handy and keep checking it for all the stuff that's going on, because there's a lot of stuff going on in this town. So you don't want to miss it.
Absolutely.
So subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We'd love to get enough subscribers to monetize this, to make a little money back to give you guys. We especially hit the like button. We appreciate all that. The podcast is coming out Friday. Subscribe to that. If not, download it. It's on all the sites. We just recorded 2 more episodes, so we should get back to every other Friday. We'll have a fun podcast for you. And we will be Wednesday again next week until the middle of December. Then we can go back to Fridays. So stick with us on these Wednesdays.
Sounds good.
Anybody got anything else to say? We got
No, I'll look forward to seeing everybody on Saturday, and I'll look forward to hearing your RSVPs for our upcoming events. Come to Devani's on the 9th, and if you're looking, you want to bring, of course, a toy to donate to the Santa Project. But the other thing I wouldn't mind if everybody did was gift wrap a little piece of coal and give it to Dan Dosa.
Yeah. Dan Dosa does have prizes for everyone. So we're trying to get a head count because we have prizes and some games that you might enjoy. So I think with that, we'll end it, Kens. So
Thanks, sir.
say goodnight.
Sounds good. Good seeing
Thanks everyone
everybody.
for watching. Thank you, everyone.